This edition of our podcast is brought to you by 360 Health and Well Balanced Nutrition.
Welcome to the Health Geeks Book Club podcast. Listen in as Kristen Norton and Eleanor Russell review all those great health and wellness books you've been wanting to read or you have read and want to talk about. Here's Kristen and Eleanor.
Are you well? It's a simple question. Yet a closer examination of the question reveals that your answer may be deceptively inadequate. This is because the question itself lacks specificity and context as to whether the inquisitor is truly interested in your response. While there is a greater focus on our mental and social health when it comes to our overall well-being, our response to this question is most likely based on our physical state of health. Even if you were to factor in all three components of health into your response, your answer would still be inadequate because you forgot one vital component, your financial health. This is crucial yet overlooked aspect to well-being because financial health can negatively or positively impact the other components. And that's what I want to say about what we're getting ready to talk about here on the Health Geeks Book Club podcast.
Yes, this book is called Nursing Our Financial Health, Financial Habits for Overall Well-Being by Aileen Ramos.
Hey, if you're as interested in prevention as I am, contact me, Eleanor Russell, at 360health4u.com. Whether you're interested in financial wellness or physical health products, 360 Health invites you to become part of our community. Yes, and this was 2023, and Aileen has some credentials, but she didn't put them on the cover of the book, which I thought was interesting. And in another book we were reviewing, we talked about how we try to evaluate our authors, and Kristen, a health geek over here, said that she does like to check the credentials.
I do, yeah. So her credentials include an MBA, a BSN, Bachelor's in Nursing, RNBC, which I'm not sure which that one means, other than registered nurse, and then CPFWC. She's a board-certified registered nurse in the greater Seattle area with 14 years of experience in both inpatient and ambulatory care. And you might be wondering, why is a nurse writing about financial health? Well, she fostered a better appreciation for health and well-being, recognizing they are defined by one's physical, mental, social, and financial health. Unfortunately, the traditional healthcare model lacks interventions to address financial health needs. And I think we couldn't agree more, right?
Totally. And, we're in the business of trying to help people build their health and stay that way. So, yes, this is a vital piece of the puzzle. About the publishing, this was a self-published book. And I looked up the Gatekeeper Press in Columbus, Ohio. But it's a publishing service for independent authors. So this is one where she had a story to tell, and I think she wanted to get it out quickly. And we'll see what happens with her writing career.
And she wrote this during COVID in 2020. So she felt, I think, just compelled to write her story at that time when we were uncertain about what was going on in the world.
Absolutely.
But, I love that she, as a nurse, takes this perspective of, okay, here's our health, but many times we leave out the financial piece of it. You've heard me countless times on the podcast say that we can't just say diet is the answer or food is our problem because it doesn't encompass the idea that having access, having the money, living in a neighborhood that can get you places, those are all parts of your health.
Transportation to the resources.
Yeah. And so when you have your financial health, it can ripple out to the other aspects of your health.
Yeah, I think in all of our discussions of health and wellness, we're talking about stressors and what happens physiologically in our body when it doesn't matter what stresses us, if it kicks that process in, we're going to have a discharge of some chemicals in our body that will affect our tissues and therefore maybe undermine our well-being.
And financial stress can be a big kicker. And she points that out several times in the book.
Yeah, and that thing about acute stress versus chronic stress. Our system is built for a quick response, not for a maintained stress. And financial stress can be one of those that goes on chronically, and therefore it has such an impact on us. This book is organized in an interesting way. She gives us the idea that we need to identify what healthy financial habits are. And then she gives us a little background. Each chapter is the same. She has the same little headings, and she talks about her life inspiration. What happened in her life based about this habit. And is it comprehensible? Is it meaningful? Can you manage it? Which would be the strategies, that you can implement. And then at the end of the chapter, she gives you a little summary. So it's not a big book. It's 113 pages. It's a quick read. And I actually think probably should read this book. It's relatable. I think you can find yourself in the story, and so we can develop some of the ideas.
Yeah, I appreciate the setup. I love that she has a little bit of her life story. It personalizes it, and she then tells you what her practices are. And she does say, like, these are my practices. They might not work for everybody. So she does say that. I'm just sharing what I do and how it's helpful. And then does do some education of the financial habits, and then occasionally tying it back to her nursing experience and how that relates to physical health. She'll tie that in there.
Yeah, this idea of stressors, she says there's financial stress, and it has two parts, really. There's the psychological anguish that, if you can't, that's a simple thing. Everybody wants to go to the movie tonight, and you can't afford to go. So there's a little bit of anxiety there. So she's going to call that the psychological story of how I'm not good enough to make enough money to be able to go do this. Well, that's anxiety. So financial anxiety. And then the expenses that exert the tension, like I bought a new car and I really can't make that car payment every month. That's a little tension. So she's going to call that financial tension. And she says those two things can be independent, but most often the financial tension drives the financial anxiety. And then what's important is having the ability to cope with that, which is called resilience. And the resilience is the ability to access appropriate resources. So I thought she did a really nice description of how do you move through this? Because we're all going to have financial tension. We're all going to have financial anxiety at some level. I mean, I've experienced these things.
Right.
And then
Every day.
And I was in a group of people the other day, and they said, it was my grandson. They asked around the table, what should we be teaching people that we don't teach them? And one of the answers from one of the parents around the table was financial literacy.
Yes, 100%.
And I thought, I'm reading a book about that right now. So what is financial literacy? It's the ability to understand and effectively use various skills, including personal financial management, budgeting, and investing. Simple, right? Everything that's simple is really hard. But that gives me a context when people are saying teach financial literacy. Those are things that would help people if they know how to manage their resources, learn what a budget is and how to use one, and then the idea of growing in the investing world and not being afraid of the risk that's involved there, which was part of her personal story.
I like what she says. Achieving financial security and freedom will enable us to live life to fulfill our needs, plan for our wants, and prepare us for the unexpected and our uncertainties. And I can't find it now, but there was one how she describes what success is. And maybe that's in the end. I'll share it at the end of our discussion today.
Yeah, because that is a definition we'll hit. Kristen, I think you are in the same ballgame I am about promoting healthy strategies and good health. So she says health promotion is the key principle in preventing many chronic diseases, right? So there's a litany of evidence supporting negative health consequences of financial distress, but no medicine or cure exists. And a financial assessment is not included in our health questionnaire. And there are very few referrals to professionals from the medical community to financial counselors. I know we expect a lot from our MDs, and we've talked about the dietetic or nutritional aspect. Their curriculum is already really big.
Right.
But what we're hoping that they learn is, okay, I can't know everything. And there are people out there that are studying that area, and I need to connect my patient to the person that's experienced in that kind of management.
I feel like there's not a position that exists out there to refer to.
I agree. For financial stuff.
Yeah.
But I mean, the MD community gets to the place where they say, I can't treat this patient because they can't pay for my services.
Right.
Which we've talked about, these insurance costs and stuff. And so people avoid coming in early because they can't afford it. And then their chronic disease is further along, and it's a more expensive thing. But if early in that area, when you're going in for your screening or something, it's just a little idea, would you like to be referred to a financial counselor? Maybe
I think that's a great idea.
It's like, that would be simple. It's like one sentence. But they have to learn to say those things. And like, I would like you to see a nutritionist or a dietitian. And then the person's going to say, oh, you got the white coat on, you're telling me to do that, maybe I'll go do it. That influence is big.
Now, I will say that social determinants of health are being screened for. So providers are asking questions like, have you struggled to live in the same place? Have you struggled? So maybe not when this was written, because I feel like it's fairly more regulated now. These questions need to be asked. But they might be referred to a social worker. And I still feel like there's a place for this other position just with financial literacy.
Yeah. So that's hopeful that maybe we will be able to develop that resource for people. Because there's something about the partnership when you're in these things alone, that when you have that advocate with you that says, I understand and I can help you.
Right.
Or here are some ideas you might not have bumped into. Let me show them to you. That kind of an idea.
I think the book does a really good job of laying out just general healthy financial habits that most young people, maybe college age kids, would be able to follow along, and then on up, right? Anyone who maybe just needs a refresher of these things. But let's walk through them. So she starts with, we should have a routine checkup, just like we have an annual checkup with the doctor. We need to sit down and have an assessment of our financial situation each year. And
she says a little more frequently, she has the habit. She says, make a habit of, 2 weeks and monthly, just in the middle of the month, check and see, are you on track or not? And make the time to do it. It doesn't take long. We often think it's going to be a whole day effort, It would be for the year for me. But the idea of making it a something you don't ignore.
Yeah. I think if you're just getting started, it might take a little while. But once you get into a routine of it, it's just a quick check-in. Now, I will say Aileen is a very organized person.
Oh, yes.
I can tell. She has a bullet journal that she keeps. And
she tells us what that is if you're not familiar with it.
Yeah, I don't know how to describe it, and I'm not on that page, but she does explain it.
Yeah.
And she then goes on to say you have to create goals.
Yeah, and we've all heard about SMART goals, so she goes down that road too. Yep. And there are lots of different ways to explain what the SMART stand for, but it's specific, measurable, achievable, realistic or relevant, and time-bound. But then she says, and I like what she did. SMART for MI, SMART for me. And the MI is for motivation and inspiration. And I thought that was a pretty clever little thing she's done there.
Yeah. Tell me more.
It's what drives you to do the goal. That bigger vision of what you're heading for. I want to send my kid to college. They have a child. She wants to send the kid to college. Not just I want to make my monthly bills. It's something out bigger.
Yeah, you kind of have to connect to that intrinsic motivation.
Right, and that's what she's not ignoring, that you've got to have that purpose and meaning of why are you even messing with taking account of your financial health.
Right.
Yeah, so, and then she says you get your goals and then budgets, big time on budget. That's something that a lot of people don't like to do.
I don't like to budget. I'm one of those. But, I love this analogy because a budget is a lot like understanding calories and tracking those, right? Like, we have to understand about how how much we are working with and when we go over or when we're under. I like it.
So Elizabeth Warren's name came up in this thing, and I was caught off guard. I went, what? Is she an economist? I don't know what Elizabeth Warren, I know she was a college professor maybe.
I don't know, Tim.
I don't know what she taught. Well, anyway, she referred to Elizabeth Warren's recommendations of 50-30-20 rule. That's a formula. And when you look at budgets, at the simplest aspect, you're looking at what are your needs, what are your wants, and
knowing your discretionary income, knowing where it's
and your savings
going,
and how much you want to save. So it's your needs, wants, and saving. And that a lot of people don't save. They spend their entire income. But you can adjust these formulas over time with, like she said, there was a time when they did 25, 25, 25, 25, which was your needs, your wants, your savings, but they had accrued debt. And they wanted to pay the debt off, not just absorb it and let it live forever. They wanted to get rid of it quick because you can save a lot of money when you pay a debt off if you have interest payments.
Right.
So they did that until they got that taken care of. And then they went back to the 25-30-40 rule. And then they went to the 40-20-40. So it doesn't mean like it's set in stone. It's just like be aware. Do you know what your needs cost you? And have you identified what is a want? Not a need. A lot of us need a new. She talks about a pocketbook in here, and I thought, who cares? I mean, like that's not important to me.
Oh, yeah.
But there are a lot of women that want some
a name brand.
Yeah,
purse.
that costs like thousands of dollars. I'm thinking, what are you doing? I don't get it. But anyway, if that's what you want, it's not a need. Identify it as a want, and then don't neglect that saving habit because that's where you build your resilience. And there's statistics in here about how many people don't have enough money to weather a 3-month, cover 3 months of salary. Mm-hmm. And I can't remember what the numbers are, but it was significant that many people just don't have the vision of having a 6-month cushion. Oh, here it is. 53% of people feel financial anxiety. 31% can't find an extra $2,000 in cash right now. 47% of us have emergency funds for 3 to 6 months. Oh, we don't have emergency funds for 3 to 4 months. 36% of us spend our entire earnings each month, and 20% of us have accumulated debt. So that's a lot of things to think about there. That's not uncommon.
Right. And so she says that your budget is more than just knowing. No matter what, financial well-being begins with an ambition and commitment to generating greater net or discretionary income so that you can put it back to save it and so that you can grow it and then, yes, have a little bit for once. But when you're spending everything that comes in, she says the quickest solution to this is supplementing your income with an additional job, working additional hours, or getting an increase in your pay, either through a raise or finding another job with better pay. Mm-hmm. Now, this is probably a good time to share some insights onto her personal story. So she comes from an extremely hardworking family, parents from the Philippines, who grew up in poverty and worked their way up, saved, and were just really diligent with their time and their money so that their kids, when they moved to the United States, could go to college. Mm-hmm. And so she shares with these little bits and pieces of her story how that hard work and saving has really instilled these values in her. So I don't know. I think that's a very important piece of the puzzle and interesting to hear. And I think everybody needs to see that personal side of it, that she's not just saying, go get another job so you can fix your situation. She's seen her dad work as many jobs as it took to save. She's been,
and her mother,
and her mother too. Yeah.
Save.
They were scrappy. And so she's like, I've seen it done. I don't know where I'm going with that, but I just thought I'd share.
Oh, no, I think the context is important for her story, and it's one that we can all benefit from. That's why I think she shared it. And she said, talking about our financial well-being is vital. Mm-hmm. Talking about money is vital to our well-being and health. And that's the one thing a lot of us don't share with each other. It's like too revealing,
That's true, yeah.
It's like, I know. And I can remember this problem is not just for poor people, like you were mentioning, people in social distress.
Yeah.
I remember working, and I was a single mom, and I was scrapping by, and I had the opportunity to work with some physicians that were married to physicians, and physicians are professionals, and professionals in our society are probably the highest paid of people in the society, not just medical doctors, but professional people, lawyers, doctors.
Right.
That's why people go to extra school to get to degrees, because there's a good reward at the end. You can pay those loans off. But the comment was something that I thought, you got a problem? I got a problem. I have to pay child care. I've got to, do everything by myself. I've got to run out and get the groceries, and I don't have enough money for babysitter. And you're telling me that you're upset because you have, you're buying a new home and it only has 4 bedrooms instead of 3. And
right.
Her comment to me was, "Oh, you don't understand. The more you make, the more you spend." She was as broke as I was, and that is so true. And we don't understand that about people. Sometimes when you're scrapping along and then you receive those bigger incomes, you don't know your financial literacy, and you spend it all. You take the trips, you buy the cars, you have all these things. You run the credit cards up.
And Aileen is strongly urging us,
oh yeah,
don't do that.
Yes. So it's not like you can look at someone and say, oh, they don't have financial problems. A lot of people, the stats here, 53% of us have problems.
That's so true.
And so the idea of talking about financial literacy and helping people to better, and what I really like is she ends the book, and I don't want to jump to it, but I'm going to, is when you have built a financial health and wellness, then you have the ability to be generous.
Yeah.
That you can then not kill yourself to give. And she said there's a overgiving is a place where people get in trouble too. And I've watched this. A lot of young people with low salaries are spending incredible money on parties for kids that are too young to even know the parties happened. The gift giving is, you sit there and the kid doesn't need all this stuff, but you just broke your bank, so you looked good coming to the party to give this giant gift that you couldn't afford. And it's like, oh, it hurts. It hurts to see this going on. It
does.
So anyway, that idea of talking about it and learning better habits could go a long way for a lot of people.
Are you ready to take control of your health and wellness journey, but don't want to do it alone? Look no further than Well Balanced Nutrition. We offer personalized nutrition and wellness coaching tailored to your unique needs. Our integrative, whole-person approach combines the latest evidence-based practices with compassionate guidance. Whether you're managing health concerns or seeking to optimize your well-being, take the first step towards a healthier, happier you by booking a free 15-minute consult with one of our registered dietitians at wellbalancednutrition.com. And those numbers that you shared, how to divide up
the needs,
wants, needs,
and
savings, paying off debt. Mm-hmm. Those things are important to look at.
She has that Filipino background, but she also mentioned something from the Toyota company, which is Japanese, isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah, and it's the Toyota production system, and it's lean thinking and practice. And Kaizen, K-A-I-Z-E-N, is a word that means good change, but what they're talking about is continuous improvement. So even though we're starting at a bad situation, which, I've been wiped out a couple of times in my life, and for some reason I have an optimistic outlook, or I'm just too stupid to recognize I'm going to be in a bad situation.
I think stupid and Eleanor should never be in the same.
It's like, okay, I got an able body, I can go out and do something and earn some money. And so since she talks about the idea of a job, what is a job, what is work, what's a career, and a job is a way you get paid. But a career is an occupation that helps you manage your financial health. So if you can find your way into a career, that is going to be a good thing. Like, see, Tim's found his career. He knows his passion. He knows what he's doing. He's building a great business. You too, Kristen. You know what your passion is. You're career oriented. It's not. I don't think either of you would say you have a job.
Right.
Nope.
No. Yeah. And I feel the same way. But there have been times when I've taken a job, and she says, you might need to go get a job to get the money.
And I've done that before.
Exactly. Mm-hmm. And it's good. It teaches you something.
It does. It always does. Yeah.
Yeah. It's like, oh, that's going to be fun. So, the ideas that she throws in here and what she's pulling from are interesting.
I agree. I was just, you were saying we like to keep up with the Joneses, or we see that happening. She says consumption-driven existence may have become the norm in our society, but it does not mean we have to conform to it. We all have a choice to choose activities that are better for our health and well-being, be it physically, mentally, socially, or financially. So I highlighted those two pieces because it was really encouraging and just an important reminder.
And it comes back to that thing about the individual responsibility. Instead of just going with the pack, that idea of saying, no, that's not right for me. I'm not going to do that right now. I've got a plan. I have my, my smart for me. Mm-hmm. I know where I'm headed, and that's not going to take me there. So I'm able to say no. I don't need that.
Yeah.
I've already been out to dinner 3 times this week. I don't need to go a 4th time. My budget won't allow it.
Yeah. When you have that awareness, you're able to make those decisions.
And feel better. And you feel better. It's like, I didn't throw myself into an anxiety, the tension over money. Mm-hmm. Like, okay, well, now where am I going to get the money that I said I was going to give for this other thing? It is tension. It doesn't feel good.
Yeah.
It's not calming like we've talked about.
So, the area, the book, the chapter that I felt most called out from?
No, which one?
The one on efficiency and avoiding waste, because, everything is electronic these days, and you can easily sign up for a subscription or a free trial. And then all of a sudden, so I like to craft. It's my newest hobby. And
you're good at it.
Thank you. So I got a Cricut, which is a fancy cutting machine, and it comes with a subscription. And I completely forgot I was paying $10 a month for it. And I wish that it had a good ending to this story, because I went and I tried to cancel it. And then it sparked my interest in crafting again. And I'm like, well, no, now I need this.
Oh, let's talk about retail therapy and compulsive buying disorder, which is not in the DMV, which is the Diagnostic Manual of the psychological disorders, right?
Yeah.
Diagnostic Manual, DMV. DMR. Whatever. That book that everybody refers to for diagnosing codes. It's not in there. But compulsive buying disorder is an issue, and she talks about her thing with retail therapy. The idea that going out to buy something does make you feel good, and there's evidence that it does make you feel good. But it should not be something that you resort to in every situation to feel good.
Yeah, so this is another area.
So don't worry about your Cricut. You're okay probably.
Okay. But yeah, I do recognize I need to do better, and I'm sure I'm not alone that we have these subscriptions that rack up, and since everything is electronic or automatic, it can be easy to forget, and then we're just letting this money go. And
you get caught up in other things, and you don't think about it. I do the same thing. Absolutely.
And then, but like you said, sometimes when you go to say, I don't want it anymore, it's not easy to get out of that.
Yeah.
That auto thing. I've got one that I've probably resorting to writing letters for because I can't get out of it. It's like I said last year, I didn't want that annual thing because she talks about, sometimes efficiency. Mm-hmm. If you buy a year's worth of something, you can save some money.
Right.
Rather than paying on a monthly issue, which is kind of the way I think. It's like, if I can save $10, I'll go for the annual subscription. Yeah, why not? Then I can go out to dinner that 4th time this week. But the idea that watching what you're doing and then fixing it when you find where you're just wasting it, you would rather direct that to some of your other ideas that you've talked about. I learned a new word in here, and since she's a health professional, I thought it was kind of fun that she kept trying to tie it back into her pathophysiology of things. But had you ever heard the word salutogenesis? Yeah,
that was a new one for me too.
Opposite of pathogenesis, and she said she's going to write her book based on that. So it's the activities and choices that promote well-being. So I like that word, Saluted Genesis. I do that. I have activities and choices that promote well-being at 360health4u.com. Check me out sometime. Wasn't that slick?
That was.
Unabashed. Yeah. And then YOLO. I should have known YOLO, but I didn't.
You only live once.
You got it. See, FOMO, I knew that one. But YOLO, I'm just catching up with you guys. And then the other one was, I thought it was a typo, and I was going to bash her on it. And I thought, well, maybe I ought to look it up first. And it really was a word. It's illiquid, ILLQUID. Had you ever bumped into that one? I know what a liquid asset is. It's like, okay, I need $2,000. I'm going to go sell this candy or whatever I've got, and you'll buy it because you like chocolate. But what illiquid is, it's hard to convert or make liquid. So let's say I have a piece of artwork that's valued. I can't turn that over real fast. I can sell it, but it may take me a few months. So you have these assets that are liquid. If you've got to get to cash, you get rid of them. Like you might have some in securities investment, and you call your broker and say, "I need $2,000. Send it to me," and they'll send it to you overnight. But some of these other things, like your grand piano or your Rembrandt that's hanging on the wall, it's going to take a while to convert that to cash. So anyway, I learned that. I thought that's kind of cool.
Well, she does in the back get into some investment information, and it doesn't necessarily take away from talking to a financial advisor who can help you with investments, but I think it's good to have a general knowledge of that, of the different places you can put your money.
Oh, gosh, yes. And she said she was afraid of that because of her mother's compulsion of risk. I mean, you could lose it.
Right.
And I am a total supporter of everybody needs a financial counselor. I think they might need a dietitian too.
I'd agree.
And maybe a physical therapist. And I need to build my own little team.
You too.
I was kidding about that. But yeah, I think...
But not really.
No, not really. They're worth their weight. I mean, just because you don't talk to your friends about your money, you better go talk to your financial advisor about it. And they're, what do they call them when they have fiduciary responsibilities, So you need to check out your financial advisor.
Right.
Because they do have your best interests at heart, not theirs. That's the thing.
Make sure that they do.
That's the fiduciary thing.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Yeah. So they work on your behalf, not on their behalf. And the credit card issue is something everybody, because who uses cash anymore?
Yeah.
I know we have our Chamber of Commerce lunches, and a couple of people are cash-based, but most of the people that attend those things are throwing the plastic around.
Well, I think this is what made me think this needs to be in the hands of college students, because I remember going around on campus and there would be credit card booths set up that just, sign this paper and you can have a credit card. And it's, if you don't have the financial literacy of, hey, this is money you don't have, that's probably not a good idea. Many people can get carried away. So I'm like, I think this needs to start there. Like everybody needs to have this book, because a credit card, it's easy to swipe.
Yeah, and if people do not understand simple interest and compound interest.
Correct.
And what they're charging you to use their money on that plastic card, and then, you only have to pay $10 a month to pay that down. Ooh, you're in trouble fast. And she talks about that. She goes over how that works. But my mother was a smart woman. I think I've mentioned that. She used to talk, and it was quoted in here. I think they say Einstein said it, but they don't really think he did. The greatest wonder of the world is compounding interest. Once you figure out how compounding interest works, it's a really nice thing. And that's the idea of being literate and the understanding where your money's going and where you're putting it, and what are your needs, what are your wants. And then life can be good. It can be much better and healthier. And I think when your stress level comes down, you can enjoy life.
Yeah. When you just said needs and wants, that reminds me, like, my son's in 4th grade, and I think that was part of their lesson. But I feel like it needs to be a little bit each year and build on that, because 4th grade is a good start, but then maybe by high school, if you haven't had that come back around. Anyway, I want to say this quote that I feel sums up kind of what she's saying financial health is. Financial health is not based on our monetary wealth, but on how we nurse or take care of our finances to grow our wealth while withstanding and addressing financial stress. If rags to riches is possible, then so too is riches to rags. So, like you said earlier, right? Even it's not just people that don't have a lot of money that struggle with finances. It's at every level, and just shows the importance of managing it and being a good steward.
Yeah, and I think the idea of nursing, since she was a nurse, I thought that was kind of, I wondered when we picked the book, I thought, hey, what's this going to be? I mean, a nurse writing about finances?
I was curious too.
Yeah, and I applaud her for doing it. I think she wrote a very readable book, a very meaningful book, and I would say, yeah, it's worth a quick read. Lots of good info in there. Couldn't hurt anybody.
Yeah, you can connect with her on Instagram. She's at Financial Health RN, or visit financialhealthrn.com if you want to learn more about her. And I'm Kristen Norton, a registered dietitian of Well Balanced Nutrition, where we offer nutrition coaching, often covered by insurance. Check us out at wellbalancednutrition.com, and we hope you book a free Clarity coaching call to see if we are a good fit for you.
And I'm Eleanor at 360 Health. My website is 360health4u.com. And as I've said before, I like to help people build and maintain health, and I actually offer people the opportunity to improve their financial health if that's of interest to them.
Well, thanks for listening in. Hope that y'all keep reading. You can purchase this book at our bookstore, and please give us a rating. It helps other people find us, or share us with a friend so we can keep bringing these wonderful book insights to you.
And we have a couple of the upcoming reads out there on the bookstore list too. If you want to read ahead of us, we'd like to have you comment.
That's right. And find us on social media and follow along.
Happy reading.
Views and opinions stated in this podcast are solely those of the contributors and are not necessarily those of our distributors or hosting company. This podcast is copyrighted, and no part can be reproduced without the expressed written consent of Kristen and Eleanor.